Good afternoon. My name is Joe Bandel, and I am the last Rosicrucian. Uh, I'm trying to do weekly updates on Gaia's ascension, things that I sense happening, and what I find of interest. How maybe anything that can be helpful, I guess, for people as we move into uncharted waters. Um, just as a side note or whatever, uh, I just kind of got a phone call from somebody from supposedly from my bank that said, "Hey, somebody's trying to use your card to buy a laptop computer, and we think it's a fraud, that kind of a thing." And I basically said, well, I thanked them. I said, "Okay, I'm going to go to the bank right away." I went to the bank and nothing had happened, and turned to find out the guy on the phone was it was a scam trying to get my card number, I suppose, something like that. So anyway, uh, it's pretty disgusting the world that we're living in. So I ended up I'm gonna close it, get that card tore up and or cut up, chopped up, and need to get a new one. This happens to me about once a year for some reason. I must be doing something wrong, doing something right. I don't know. At least they're catching it. Um, but it's kind of frustrating. So, anyway, uh, what was I going to talk about? This, if you remember my last message, it was kind of uh, no more gridlock. The energy is really starting to flow. And I remember now, I'm kind of, as you get older, okay, it might be kind of hard to gather my thoughts together. We're coming up in the United States, we're coming up on the presidential election. And the point that I am trying to make in this video is that it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter who wins the election. And I'm going to tell you why. But before I tell you why, I'm going to give my perspective on Gaia's ascension, which this is when I say it, it's going to seem pretty mainstream, so nobody should really have any attitude about it or something like that. We're currently in what they call third density, and Gaia, Earth, whatever, is ascending. It's moving into a higher frequency range, but it's splitting at the same time. And it's splitting into what has been called a planet A and a planet B. So one of them's moving into fifth density, one of them is moving into fourth density. The important point on this is that there ain't going to be no more third density in the way that we understand it. So the third density remnant is unraveling as we speak. And both fourth density and fifth density, planet A, planet B, whichever one you want to go, that you're headed toward, does not have room for the powers that be. And so what happens is it's time for us, whether we're going this way or whether we're going that way, to start to think about the world that we want to live in terms of love, in terms of compassion, in terms of help, helping other people. Because neither one of the choices is going down that evil path. That's the point that I'm going to say. And what happens is there's evil on both sides of today's world. So it doesn't matter. What matters is that we have heart and we treat each other as humans and with compassion. Because we are going to be going through some struggles. We're going to be going through some hard times. Now, when I say it doesn't matter who wins the election, what I want you to think about is, and this is a reality, let's take times of war. There are people that war or natural disaster or whatever you want to bring up. There are people that live in those time periods that are perfectly safe. And there are people that live in those time periods that have a terrible, terrible time of it. So it doesn't matter who's president because we're getting into the idea of multidimensionality here, which is kind of where we can create our own safe spot no matter who is president. And they may take the economy, they may take the world, the they may try to do this way or to do that way. The thing is, if you talk about the election, and if you believe that the will of the people is guiding the election, which a lot of people might not they might not agree with, but let me put it this way and say, okay, if you're one person and there's 1,000 people voting, and that 1,000 people have a different view than you do, the reality in a type of government is they have the right to call the shots. However, you have the right to create a safe little space within your circle of influence. And that circle of influence can be your community, it can be your home, it can be your family, it can be whatever. So it does not matter who who wins this election, how it's won or whatever. That is dealing with numerical things that we individually have no control over. We have no control over. And it's time to really be not being afraid of that. Not being afraid of World War III, not being afraid, because fear is what's destroying our society. Fear, that lack of compassion for other people, that lack of empathy is what's destroying our society. When's the last time you went to a community dance? They don't have them anymore. Not, at least not where I live. But anyway, the whole point that I'm getting at here is that it's time to let go. And based on the things that I've been experiencing this past week, uh, the past couple of weeks or whatever, the gridlock has ended and the energy is flowing. It has decided which way it's going to flow. And we're not stopping that. So the idea is let go of that and start working on your own little circle. working on the safety and the security of your own little circle. Because if the rest of the world is nuts, if the rest of the world is crazy, you can still create a safe space for yourself and for your loved ones. And you can link up with other people that are not so crazy. And that even adds to your own safety and it adds to your own security. And those are the things that we should be talking about. Those are the things that we should be thinking about through the end of this year, coming into the next year, and the new energies that are going to be coming in at the winter solstice. So I'm just saying that that's the way that I'm looking at things. Between now and the winter solstice, you're going to be seeing a lot of people who are running out of that grace period. They're running out of grace. They're running out of their quota of spiritual light has run out, and they're going to be in a tight spot. Um, it doesn't need to be you. So forget about all those things that are beyond your control. Do what you can. Sure, go ahead and vote. I'm willing to believe, I'm not saying that this is true, but I'm saying I'm willing to believe that because of the multidimensionality of things right now, uh, and how the unraveling of 3D, third dimension, third density exists, I can end up moving into a world where there's a different president than you are. In other words, I'm going to be blunt here, and I'm going to say, I think that Gaia's ascension is happening in the fairest, the most gentle way possible. It's trying to find the way that causes the least harm. And this is where I'm just going to be blunt and say that it appears to me like I'm 67. I'm toward the end of my life. And when I cross over, I'm going to find myself in planet A or planet B. Whatever one that I have chosen. I'm chosen the one that's with all life on Gaia. I'm choosing the one that's kind of like a druid type earth type thing as opposed to technology based type thing. Somebody else may be ending up over there. However, that is when we transition out of the lifetime that we are currently in. And when you think about a lifetime being approximately 80 years, let's say 80 years, if this window, if things drag out for 80 years, everybody that's alive now is going to be gone. I shouldn't say everybody, but a lot of people, most of the people that are alive now are going to have crossed over one way or another. So that if you're thinking about Gaia's ascension as happening in a second, if you're talking about how planet A and planet B are going to separate instantaneously and find yourself over here and find yourself over there, I don't think that that's the way it works. I think that we're gradually, everything's rooted together in 3D, and it's gradually unrooting. It's gradually pulling apart a little bit at a time, and some things pull a little harder than others. Some things are a little more fragile than others, but that it's gradually falling apart and increasing as a lot of us old farts transition out of here, because a lot of us are the ones that are holding things back. This is just my thoughts on what's happening here, because everybody's kind of thinking, oh, the whole world here is going to end up over this way, and you forget about the shredding of the fabric of your reality, and also we're forgetting about, okay, this concept of 3D, 4D, if people need to be reminded, what's 4D? What's the fourth dimensional? What 4D, fourth density? I guess the term is that they use. What's that going to be like? I'll tell you right now. It's going to be like the astral planes. It's going to be not quite solid. It's going to be the astral. It's going to it's merging the astral planes. What's 5D? 5D's skipping the emotional level. It's going right into the mental planes, where it's going to have even less physicality to deal with. But either one of them are going to they're going to offer a place for the heart. They're going to offer a place for uh, human compassion, things like that. This is my take. This is my take on it. I think of, okay, we're getting closer and closer to these elections, and everything seems to be hinging on these elections. And I know for myself that a couple weeks ago, I experienced a severe timeline shift. I don't know about other people, but it was big. And I don't sense another one between now and the election or anything like that. I think that that was the shift. So I think that the whole solution, or the how things are going to turn out, has already been decided, at least for me, and that we have to live through that. But that this is why I'm kind of saying that I don't think it matters who wins, because the person that we want to win could become the president, and our lives could be really crappy. And the person that we don't want to win could win, and our lives, our individual lives, could be very good, because we could be protected a little bit. So it's time to let go of those big things, because those big things have already been determined, and the split between planet A, planet B is happening, has been happening for this entire year, gradually pulling apart a little bit, pulling apart a little bit. It's third density that's not holding together, which brings up another interesting point. I recently was asked. Well, my best friend since first grade died last winter. He died of cancer. It was a horrible way to go. Whatever. Uh, they tried surgery, and he died almost hours after the surgery even. But his siblings, the surviving siblings, he was unmarried. The surviving siblings were trying to deal with the estate, and they got to squabbling so bad that they felt that they needed a neutral person to probate to be the executor of the estate. And I volunteered. I thought it was like the best that I could do for that I could do that for the sake of my friend, my lifelong friend. I don't know what I'm getting into. However, the more I'm feeling this energy coming up, the more I'm thinking, hey, uh, my friend is not a person who is at rest yet. Um, for one thing, he died last winter. It's almost a year, and he's never had a memorial service yet where people could say goodbye to him. He really, really, really did not want to leave this place. He wanted to live till he was 80. He's the same age as me. Live till 80 or 90 or whatever. And I think that when he passed over, those were the things that he had in his mind. And I'm thinking, oh God, am I going to be having to deal with a restless spirit that can't rest as well? Part of me thinking, okay, I think this is going to be an issue, and I hope it's not. But it brings up the point that the veil is getting thinner. The veil is the thinnest at two times in the year. One is at Beltane and one is at Samhain, October, Halloween. But it's thinner in different directions. Halloween is when everything's going into the astral. The physical is leaving the physical and it's going into the astral. It's going into the seed. It's entering into that non physical state where we are aware of the non physical, where we, as physical living entities, gain awareness of the non physical. So the veil is becoming thin, and as Gaia's ascension process continues, especially this year, because this year is really when it came online, it's never going to thicken. I don't think it's ever going to thicken, and I think that a lot of people are going to be starting to perceive dead people, restless spirits, one way or another. Not only that, uh, the channeling type of thing is getting more pervasive. You're talking about perhaps when you talk about extraterrestrials being in a different dimension, them becoming more in communication or the awareness of interdimensional realities is kind of on the increase. These are the things that are going to be occupying the attention for people. This is the sense that I have. You can forget about a lot of these other things because we are going to, these are the things that are going to be uh, happening as the veil continues to get thinner and thinner and thinner. So I've kind of thrown together quite a few, a various variety of concepts and thoughts But that's where my head is today. That's what I'm trying to do. And with that, I'm going to leave you. Uh, till next week. Thank you.